speak Spanish.
I understand. I don't speak a lot, but I think I understand.
Well,
Okay.
congratulations on the substance. You absolutely smashed
Carlota,
it.
os
Sorry,
introduzco.
pero-
2 minutos, nada, un minuto. Nada, bienvenidos. Deciros que esta es la última sesión de The Horror Girls, pero mañana tenéis a Kate Siegel también compartiendo con nosotros su trayectoria y su legado en el cine de género. Os dejo con 2 maestras en mayúscula. Antes, Heather Langenkamp nos decía que en 7 u 8 años tendríamos referentes masculinos a los que rendir tributo. Yo creo que estoy viendo ya a 2 mujeres a las cuales podemos rendir tributo hoy. Muchísimas gracias por estar aquí.
Well, congratulations. You absolutely smashed it with the substance. You also did with Revenge, but this one is just amazing. I think everybody here already seen it and absolutely loved it.
Thank you so much, and thank you for being here. It's great to see so many people for this chat.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you something that probably has been asked many times before, but it's the first time for this audience. What is your origin story?
Like in my life?
No, I mean, you were born, right? No, like for a fan of the genre.
Yeah. Basically, I grew up with the genre. That's really what made me discover cinema. And in fact, it was the movies that I wasn't allowed to watch at home and that my grandfather took me in secret to see. And I think to me it was a door on some kind of powerful feeling that I could experience, very interesting and with a lot of adventure that I didn't feel I had in my life. I was quite not at ease with real life, and to me watching those films made me discover like so many great things. So I think that's what made me really click with that genre.
Do you think that the visual aspect as well as the adventure was something that really drew you towards the genre?
The what, sorry?
The visual aspect.
Oh, yes.
Storytelling.
Yeah. Basically, I think I'm a very visual person, and the type of movies that I loved were really creating visual sound experience, which I think to me is the most powerful way to tell a story, because you can speak to every country, because like then you don't need to translate. It's the universal language for me. Like you see an image and it makes you feel something, it tells you something without any words. And I think that's really the power of cinema, that you can bring something to the audience without having, need of any words in a way.
Absolutely. There was something that Enrique Lavigne, which is a Spanish producer, was saying yesterday, that something that he felt a bit different from the genre films made by female directors, from the directors that other movies done now with male directors, were that there was less talking in female movies.
Less what, sorry?
Less talking, less dialogue. Do you think
it's
that's true?
interesting. I didn't thought about it.
Yeah.
In a way, I think that's probably what happens also in real life.
Except now.
No, but I think it's true. And the more I grow up in age, the more I realize how in society we behave differently, because we are brought up and our education is very different. And I see a lot, it's true that in a natural way, because it's in education, men are used to take more space, in gestures, in talking, in the way they joke and everything. And I think like on a cultural, general level, girls are still brought up in the way that they have to behave, be delicate, smile, and kind of listen and don't make too much noise.
Yes.
So I wanted to make some noise in my film
Yes,
to
absolutely.
kind of do the opposite. But I think it's, of course, something that lives strongly with us, whether we want it or not. And I think it's a lot of years, a lot of time. So this cultural shift can really happen. So everyone feels free to take the space he needs. And I think there is a lot that go through us without us being able to control it. So it's interesting what you say, because probably part of it maybe, translate into the way we do films as well.
But it's funny because it happens in Spain, it happens in France, it happens in Germany, and I say, well, there's something there. As you say, I thought it was the same reason, basically. You're taught to listen and
And I think if you think about it, I think the the genre and the body horror is a very powerful way to kind of do the contrary in a way, take a territory that was used to, it's true, be done mostly by male directors. And I think putting our own eyes and our own phobia, our own fears, because genre is really about that, our human fears, our human, desire, and all this is very different, depending the way you grow up and what you're exposed to. Probably there is something that plays here, and that there is a tendency, first of all, because I think there are more and more female directors. It's still not a lot if you look at the numbers. It's a very little progress, but it's still a progress. But I think it's especially a space where you can make some noise without needing to use words in a way.
Without having to make a speech.
Exactly, yeah.
There's something as well in both of your movies that has to do a lot with the way you are perceived. I love in Revenge how it's someone who, you made a judgment on her right away, and then you change it completely. You subvert it so well. As well, I love the beginning and the end of the movie. I think it's fantastic. And it has to do also with the body and the way it's perceived. Do you think that's also a theme that is common in female?
Oh, it's totally common. I think, to me, both films are closely linked. They are telling very different stories. But I think the core link is really about how we can take our space and our place in society in a way that is not dictated by male expectations and the way people look at us. And basically, since more than 2,000 years, I think it's true, like, society has been dominated by the male gaze, like what, we were taught that was sexy, that was beautiful, that was how, let's say, I was raised like that, how a girl is supposed to look like to be desirable, and if you're not like that, you feel you're a monster. That's really, to me, the core of the thing. And I think it's something that is super powerful and hard to get free of, because it's society, so you want to exist, you want to have a place in society. So I think everything kind of leads you to conform to what is expected from you, because it's the only way to exist, and you can't have a revolution just on your own, like, otherwise you just step out of society, and no one wants that. And in Revenge, like, for me, the way to express it was really like this kind of symbolic, baby doll character, which is, as long as she's beautiful, totally does what the guys are expecting from her, everyone, she's a center of interest, like, everyone loves her.
I love that you turned her into Rambo.
Exactly.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
Yeah. And then, as soon as she starts to not behave the way she's expected to, they can, they think that they can trash her. And when she's reborn in a way where she says, okay, I'm going to take my place in the world for myself. And to me, the relationship she had with her body, kind of, being still naked, but in a very different way that felt grounded to the earth, to the natural elements, was a way for her to take control and power over herself and still be the way she wants, but her worth doesn't depend on that anymore. She takes the control. And in the substance, it's the same in a different way, because the story is not the same, but it's the fact that both of the characters are victim of the same trap and the same jail. Basically, like, they think they can exist just because they're going to please the people who look at them, you know, and if they are young, sexy, you know, with great boobs and ass, like, it's going to be great, all the cameras and attention is going to be on them. And so they live in the fear that as soon as this is going to disappear, or as soon as there's going to be an imperfection, something on the butt or whatever, it's the nightmare, because like then they feel they're going to be erased. And to me, the meaning of the monster at the end is like, it's the freedom from all this. It's the liberation. Like, at long last, like, she kind of get rid of her human appearance, and she's so far away from the beauty norm and the standard that she can finally, feel good about herself, because she doesn't care anymore. And it's the very first moment where she feels, okay, I can have my place in the world. I'm gonna go out, put my earrings, go on stage, because this is my moment.
There's something that I read the first page of your screenplay, The Substance, and I love how you are very visual. I can imagine that you're basically just writing while you're going to shoot. And I wonder, when you write the screenplay, what comes first? An image, like an image for the movie, because sometimes it is for me, like I have an image and then I get the concept, or is it the other way? Is first the concept, or then the...
No, it's exactly this. It's a few different things at the same time. There is, I think, the general idea. It's the core theme, you know, but which is still very vague. And then, before I even start to write, I do the same than you. I research a lot of images, sound as well, to find the symbolical environment of the film. And during that time, I start to write a few scenes, and I don't even have the story yet. And the first scene I remember that I wrote for the movie was the birth scene, the first birth of Sue when she goes out of the back. And this is the strong intuition that I have that come on the page, and I knew this scene would be the core of the film. I didn't know yet what were going to be all the other elements, but I knew it was the core of the movie, because it's already very symbolical in itself. It kind of embodies, you know, the full film in itself. And at the same time, again, because I don't work a lot with dialogues, I really researched the symbolical image that are gonna let me tell my stories. And that's why also the locations are so visual, because for me they are powerful characters that tell something in themselves. Like, for instance, the white bathroom is this kind of transformation chamber. It's a kind of a passage, you know, like, and it has a very strong symbolic presence in the film, you know, with this kind of empty, static bathroom where the character is facing herself, or the long corridor, you know, which just represents the power TV world, like, and you know, and Elizabeth start her life at the beginning of the corridor.
I love that the women's bathroom is closed and then you have to go to the men's bathroom. It's just, oh my God, I almost clapped there. Yes.
And those to me are, you know, they are more powerful than 1,000 words. Like, you see, and it's a way also that everyone can appropriate the story on their own. It leaves a lot of space to each one imagination. I like to say it's like when you read a book, if, you know, each one can make his own mental images. And here, I think with those kind of visual world, there is a lot that is not told, that stays beneath, but that exists, and that exists maybe a different way for each and every person who watched the film.
Different subtext, depending on their experience.
Exactly,
And I was wondering as well, because one thing that I love about your movies is that there's a lot of humor in it. You know, Stephen King says that humor is just anger with this makeup on. And I really feel it, that there's something there, maybe.
I think it's great. I love this sentence. I didn't know it. To me, the humor is the perfect companion of genre, because like genre is about going far in what you say, in the way you're going to say it. It's provocative, it's letting something out. And to me, to make it a cinematographic experience, you need, I think it's good when the audience can also have moments of relief where you feel, okay, I can love that. You know, that is, I think it's a great way to be able to cope with the violence, but not feeling attacked by it, you know, so it can reach you, you can think about it, and it can process within you, you know, over time. And yes, to me, they are always very linked, and also because I think the satire, you know, is such a strong weapon to kind of, yes, tell what you have inside you, and yeah, anger with makeup, I think it's a great, great way to say it.
And the first movie is, of course, there's an element of fantasy, and I love exactly the shot, obviously when the transformation happens, and when the bad guys in the motorbike at night. I love that shot. That is so abstract, and it gets you in the mood. But in this movie, you went farther still. And in the first movie, it was you could see the references of Mad Max and other movies, and there's something you said about location, that you are French, but both of your movies are set something very far away from that. Is that search of adventure, or trying to find something else, or where does it come from?
Yeah, I think even if I love French cinema as an audience, it's not the type of way of telling stories that is my own, which is more, you know, French cinema is very various, but it's very social or dramatical or psychological. And it's true that I grew up with type of movies where, to me, it was very different way of telling a story. And and to me, yes, also because I think I want to speak to everyone, and I always look for my films to have some kind of universal resonance. And I think when you don't know where the story happens, it can speak to anyone. It was the case for Revenge. I didn't really want to know where it was. You know, it's some kind of desert that could be Mexico, that could be Australia, that could be South Africa. And to me, it represents a character. Like the desert, once I found the idea of putting the story in the desert, to me that was what built the movie, because then the setup ground your story in a symbolical world that's gonna infuse the main elements. And here it was the relationship with the tension that the location brings to the story, how it's hot, how it's static, how it's huge, and how much like the kind of wildness of the landscape resonates with the craziness of the characters that go more and more crazy, the more and more crazy the chase goes. And again, that's why I like that you can see on screen in the very expressionist, you know, way that the kind of what the character thinks imprints the location. And it's the same in the substance. The movie, when I started to write, the movie took a shift when I found the idea of setting it up in the kind of unconscious collective Hollywood dream idea, which was not the real one, but the representation of, okay, like the star, it's the thing that makes you dream, you know, the dream of beauty, fame. You're going to be looked at, everyone, and you know, you're going to be looked at and you're going to be loved and you're going to be happy, because I think that's the basic of what this star says through the history, you know, of cinema, of actresses. And then when I had this idea, all the locations started to shape in a way that they would represent what the character was going to go through. Like the apartment is, you know, kind of this timeless mix of vintage, futuristic elements that represents basically Elizabeth's life, and with the view, you know, the relationship with the outside and the inside. The view at the beginning is kind of the past, you know, what escaped from her, and she's going to be stuck into her own apartment. And when Sue is reborn, like the view is the future again. You know, she's going to conquer it. And then, yes, all the location, again, were an expression of what the character were feeling. And the more crazy and crazy they get in their head, the more crazy and crazy stuff happen in that apartment, you know, until it's totally trashed and you know, full of disgusting stuff, which kind of express what we have inside us again. So yeah, I think to me, that's also what I love, to create my own world, because then I don't have any rules to follow but my own. You know, that's I don't have to care about realism, about whether it is possible or not possible. You just set the codes of your own film and your own imagination, and you just have to be coherent with that for, you know, the audience to follow you.
One thing you said is that you come from, you're a French filmmaker, but you come from, there's now a really great French filmmakers coming from female French filmmakers from genre. Do you feel that there was some kind of community where you were starting out, or because you come from film school? What did you have a sense of community when you were starting? I know there were not many references as female filmmakers, but
yeah, like, to be honest, like the answer is really no. I think, like, until very recently, I don't think there was a sense at all of, you know, female community in the cinema, you know, business, because I think, first of all, we were so little, so few of us, and I don't think that is something that is naturally happening, that you are led to have. Me, the way I build myself into films, I learned to create my community, because I didn't go to film school, so it's true that one of the greatest things that film school can give you is a community, people who have been at school with you, and they're going to want to do the same, and so you're a group of people that you can share the same expectation, the same desire, the same disappointments, the same failures, and it's super valuable to have that. And me, I didn't go to film school, so I didn't have that, and I was struggling to make my first feature, because I had done my first short film, which was, to me, expressing what I wanted to do, but in a very realistic story, because I needed to start somewhere. And, you know, I was struggling to make the first feature, and I met with a few other directors who were living the same situation than me. We were all fan of genre films. We were all struggling to make our first feature film, because in France, no one wanted to do some genre. And we said, okay, rather than complaining that, oh, the world is so nasty, they don't want to let us do our film, let's see how we can try and find a way to be constructive and make things happen anyway. So we started to create a kind of informal group where we were gathering every 2 weeks, and we were inviting people from the industry to discuss with us and tell us their experience about what was important in the filmmaking process, about how you get a movie financed, what's the production, you know, stuff you had to go through. We invited other directors, scriptwriter, producer, distributors. So all this kind of was our film school.
You created it yourselves.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
And it was it gave us like what reality was. Okay, this is reality that we have to deal with. How, now that we know and understand that reality, how can we still find a way to, you know, sneak our ideas into that? And that's what made me understand, for instance, that I needed to make another short film that was in a genre that would be more close to what I wanted to do in my feature. So people can see better, you know, what I'm capable of. And also what made me understand that for a first feature, you should try and keep your budget low, because, you know, you can write an amazing story with $100 million, you're never going to get financed. So that's how Revenge came together. I said, okay, I have a big obstacle in France, which is a genre. So this is the obstacle, let's not add other obstacles. So I'm going to choose a very simple story, make it very in one location, not many characters, and express myself in that. And basically that's really what, allowed me, together with the face and, a lot of fights, to put the movie together. And really what I had with, those other filmmakers who were at the same step than me was I think what has been the most helpful in building my past. And it's true, to be honest, like, each time we were inviting another filmmaker to join, and we were struggling to find female directors to invite, and we kind of realized that because the natural way that it goes, because we knew many more male directors, it was easy to say, hey, do you want to join us next week? And so it was easy, but we're always like, I was almost the only girl in the meetings. And I said, okay, we need to do more. We need to, yes, it's not as easy because it's not in our close circle, but there are people, if you search, if you do the effort, yes, we can invite more female directors to join our groups. And that's why little by little, we kind of, had a more mixed group, but it was not, and I think that's the story of what happens in society. If you don't make efforts to rebalance, it's not going to do by itself. Not going to happen. Exactly, yeah.
It's not going to happen. And I would just wonder, just one thing that, how did you pitch this movie, The Substance? Because I can imagine you got a lot of offers to direct something in Hollywood, and then you pitch The Substance.
Yeah, so it's a very good question. And in fact, I didn't pitch the film because I knew, so as you say, after Revenge, the movie was very well received, especially in the US. So in the US, they are so eager to work with new filmmakers. They really look for people who arrive, who are not there yet. Yeah. So it's true that I got a lot of offers, to direct things that I didn't write, or even to sign, a check to write something. And I took some time to think, and I said to myself, be careful, because of course it's very tempting, but if you look at many directors who, after a first success of their first feature film went to Hollywood, it almost always didn't went good, because to keep the creative control there, it's very, very tough until you are, very established. So I took some time to process, and I said, to me, if I make a film, the most important is that it can be mine. It can be my full vision. I'm not interested in doing a movie where basically I won't have the final cut. If it's to do something that is not really me, it's not worth the 5 years I'm going to work on the film. But I knew that for this movie, I also needed bigger budget, and so for this, in France, you can't have, those level of budget. So I said, okay, I think it's not a good idea to kind of sell your idea on just a pitch, because from a pitch, it can give thousands of different films, and maybe someone is going to like your idea, but then you're going to write, and he's going to say, it's not really what I thought it would be. Yeah. So I said, okay, for me, I think the best way for this movie, especially that I knew it was going to be very unconventional, very provocative, with a very strong vision, I said, okay, I think the best is for me to write the script, so to take the risk to write the script on spec, so the script can still be mine. I don't sell it to anyone until the script is done. I can find the partners who read the film and want to come on board, knowing what that's step into, because it's going to be very crystal clear how far the movie is going to go. And also for this, to be able to kind of stay in control of everything that was going to happen, I knew also I wanted to be a producer on the movie, because it's also a way to find the best way to craft the movie. Because I think the way you're going to produce the movie, where you're going to shoot it, how you're going to use your budget, what's important, and you should spend money, what it's not important, and you shouldn't spend money there, is going to define the life of your film, what your film is going to be. And especially for this one, we made it really the the movie needed, you know? We didn't respect the traditional rules, like you have to do it like this, you have to do it like that. We did it the way the film needed. And so I was, you know, lucky to gather a crew with me who allowed me to do that, you know, who kind of went on board for the kind of crazy journey with, you know, 1,000 prosthetic, and we have body pieces everywhere on set.
You're a fan
you know?
of practical VFX.
Exactly. And from then, like, you know, with the script, I found my co-producer partners working title, who were like, the one I know who were strong enough to, at the same time, bring on the film what I needed in terms of international, you know, financing, access to an international casting, while protecting me, shielding the movie, so the vision can be, you know, can be completed. And for me, to be honest, it was like so clear from the start. I think the first words I said with my first discussion with the producers, and in I think every conversation after, was the final cut. I think I said, "Hi, I'm Coralie," because this is, you know, the core of the thing. And final cut doesn't mean that, you know, you don't feed yourself from feedbacks. You don't, you know, listen to good advice. You don't make your film better in the process by people who have an external eyes and can spot things where, you know, into things that you can forget. But it means that at the end of the day, everyone is on board with having a vision, you know, with having something that is faithful and sincere with the people who imagine it. And I think, to me, that's this sincerity that can reach the audience. And this is something you really have to stick to during the post-production process, because, to be honest, it's always a fight. There is, you know, post-production, everyone is afraid. It's the moment everyone wants the movie to be like as short as possible, less provocative as possible, you know. No one knows what's going to happen. So the only one that can really, you know, kind of follow his path is the director, because he started, you know, the sparkle. But it's hard, because sometimes you doubt, and, you know, but you have to, I think, get back to the very, very first idea or image that you had when you were starting to write, and okay, this is the reason why I wanted to do the movie. And if the movie fails, it will be because of me, you know, and it won't be the fault of something else, you know, and I think the worst, you know, if you end up doing a movie that is not totally you, then let's say the movie doesn't work, and you say, oh, if I had done it the way I wanted, maybe it would have succeeded. So I think that's the risk that you need to take, and in the end, I think it's believe in yourself, and believe that you have your place in the world. But that's the toughest part.
Do you think that did you get more questions because you were a female director, or not?
No, I think what was tough is, like, it's stories that people are not used to get. So until it's out there in the world, nobody really understands. And to be honest, nobody really wants those stories. It's true, like, you know, getting this story to be financed was so difficult, you know, keeping the level of violence, because I knew that, to me, it was what was going to represent the violence of what we live, was such a fight, you know, because it's topics that obviously they are not discussed nowadays still. It's still very much taboo. And so, you know, we kind of look at those stories with other eyes than the eyes that we need. So there is not the, let's say, to me, this movie, I would say, is made to change the world, in a way, be a step. But
I think it's a movie that is going to sparkle a lot of people want to be directors.
Exactly. But you know, like, financiers, they don't want to change the world. They want to make business, and, you know, and each one needs job. You know, I think it's my job to do that. But then, because there is no habit yet, you know, of those stories being in the center of the conversation, so you can also see how they perform, how they are successful, you know, and that can make you want more. But you have to start somewhere.
Did you enjoy the screening yesterday?
Oh, yes. No, I mean, it was great. Like, CJS was really one of the screening I wanted to stay through the screening, because I think I was really impressed for Revenge when I was here, how much the audience reacted, and in a loud way, you know. And I think that's great, because to me the movie are a collective experience, and I think especially for this one, seeing it with an audience makes such a difference.
Yes.
And experimenting the movie with a packed crowd, clapping during, you know, the top moments. Yes, it's a dream, you know, that's why we're doing this and sharing this moment with the audience, feeling that, you know, people are gonna root for your blob crawling at the end of the pavement. It's so amazing. And,
it is.
And to me, it's a way to feel that, yes, like all the work that you have to get your imagination on screen, you know, work for people, and that is the best.
Congratulations. I think we have time for some questions from the audience.
Hi. Nice to meet you both. I really appreciate all the work that both of you have done. I have two questions. The first one would be for you, because I'm really interested in the part about practical effects, because I think a lot of the movie was just practical effects. I don't know how much of it was CGI or something like that, but I felt that it was something real, that it was touchable, that you could just like, how was the experience of working with that? Because as a director, being able to see what your vision is and not just see it afterwards, that must be something. And the second question would be for both of you. Do you think that you're still gonna make movies about these subjects? Because I think both of you have treated the subject about how we as females are gazed, like our weight, our beauty standards, the way that we are portrayed on pornography, on films, on magazines. Do you think this is a subject that you still want to carry on talking about? Thank you so much.
Thank you for those super interesting questions. So the first question, yes, on the practical effects, I knew from the start that I needed those to be for real. And we're getting back to the way you make a film, really the way you decide to shoot and really shape your film from the start. And I knew that because this movie is really about flesh and blood, like it talks about our bodies. It's a film about women's bodies, that I knew I needed to be able to touch them, to film them, to have those extra close-ups for real, and to benefit from all the energy that when you film for real, you get on screen. So I knew it was going to be a massive technical challenge, because the amount of prosthetics that there is in the movie is just insane, and that's what brings the need to create our own way of shooting and scheduling the film to be able to cope with that huge amount of work. So we ended up like having maybe like 87 days shooting with a more restricted crew, so we could shoot longer, but in a more, tight setup, with many, many things that we do afterwards when we didn't have actors anymore, and it was what we called the lab. And it was basically like 5 or 10 people left in a little stage with pieces of, body parts that we were filming in close-up, all the injections of the, all the prosthetics, the bag that opens, like all the close-ups. So it was, to me, that was one of the best moments of the shooting. It was kind of the crazy professor lab, where few people were kind of shooting body parts, somewhere in France. But to be able to get those real prosthetic for the whole movie, we used a lot of VFX. And that's where the collaboration between the two departments were so successful, because our VFX, my VFX supervisor understood that I wanted everything to do for real. And so basically, it brought me ideas to kind of what was impossible, that we could still do it for real, and we could stitch parts together that were all real, but that would allow, to have the full, let's say, body that we couldn't have in real. Also, you can erase things so VFX are still super useful and a big part of the process to have all those real prosthetics. It was also very useful for the final monsters, which is a mix of totally everything has a practical basis, and sometimes VFX recreate from the real prosthetic, something that can work all together. But yes, basically, and that's what I lived, the post-production process was very tough, and all the parts that were not there for real during the shoots were the one that we struggled, in the edits, because you don't see what you're gonna have until all the VFX are finished, so you have to imagine. And if you can imagine, people who watch the film in the post-production process, it's tough, they see incomplete stuff and the energy is not there. But to me, that was the right choice, because I think I really believe that the energy that is for real on set goes on screen, and reach the audience. And everything we did with the practical effects, I think achieved that. And also it's an important stuff. Cinema is still kind of a kid game, we create stuff. It's it really was a way to achieve our fantasy of where we were in kids and playing with this magical tricks of, making exist things that don't exist in reality. So I think all the crew was super happy of having, also that experience. And for the second question, I think, yes, that I will probably keep exploring those themes. I think still in a very different way, because I really like to do very different movies, but where there is still some similarities in what I want to say. And I love to explore also different part of the genre, because to me the genre is very wide, like you mentioned Mad Max, so it's at the same time it can be action, it can be sci-fi, it can be horror, it can be kung fu fight, it can be all those kind of out of reality world. And I think probably the thing that kind of make me feel very alive for good or bad reasons will keep transmitting into my work. Also because the way I work, I write, I direct, I edit as well. So basically for me, working on my film is 4 to 5 years, all in all. So I need to find something that I feel passionate about to kind of keep the desire to navigate the waves during this process. So I don't know what for you.
Well, it is the same. I think those things are going to stay because this is part of who I am. This is the things that matter to me, so they're going to be there. Do we have time for more questions? Ed? ¿Una más o no? Sorry. No? Maybe one? One? Bueno, una más, venga. A ver quién. Ahí. Make it worth it.
Wow, the pressure.
Thank you so much for the movie. It was absolutely wild and wonderful in the best way. I wanted to ask about the subtext between mother and daughter, because I feel like there is a subtext saying that because Sue is being born from Elizabeth, there's this competition kind of between mother and daughter, and then the toxicity between the two females. And so I wanted to ask, a question I have is that why would Elizabeth want to go back to Sue if she doesn't get to experience the benefits of being her? Is that a commentary on how mothers is selflessly giving to the daughter? And yeah, that's my question. Thank you so much.
I think probably on an unconscious way, there is of course, some birth theme related to the film, because yes, Sue is born from Elizabeth. And to me, I think that the question of motherhood, fertility, is strongly linked to the theme of the film. How society sees you, if you have kids, if you don't have kids, if you can have kids, if the age where you can't have kids anymore. I think it's a core theme that strongly defines the way society sees women, you know, and I think there is a huge pressure as well also to fit in those boxes as a woman, to be seen in a certain way or another. So I think all this went into the movie through also, you know, Elizabeth's character, the fact that, yes, she's on her own, you know, and that's an important, you know, element in the film. And I think probably, you know, the way that she gives birth to Sue is a way for her to leave something in the world, because I think, like, you know, all this, our desire to be young, you know, to not get old, not disappear, I think is related to our human fear of, you know, mortality, you know, of the fact that we're gonna end at some point, that, you know, we are mortal. And I think all the strong genre movies relating to that are very philosophical in the quest that is very human to want to escape to our mortality, to our humanity, to make what make us, you know, human, is the fact that we are mortal, basically. And I think, like, you know, birth and the fact that you reproduce yourself through family or whatever is a way, I think, for many people to leave something in the world, you know, to kind of keep being alive even when they won't be there. And I think, to me, like, the fact that Elizabeth doesn't have kids, you know, and is existing by her own, the fact that, you know, she wants to start and live again is also this way to find a way for herself to kind of leave a trace and reproduce somewhere, even if it's not through maternity. So on an unconscious level, I think, yes, those, you know, themes are here, not into the mother-daughter relationship, which was not, you know, something that that is really related to the movie, but more through those themes. And on the fact that why would Elizabeth get back to Sue, even, you know, if she feels that there is no benefits, I think that's the very core of what made us addicts. Like, you know that it's going to hurt you, you know that it's not going to be good, but there is such a craving for the hope and the dream and the promise that makes you go again, you know, even if you know that you're going to destroy yourself. And also because the way I wanted, you know, the rule of having to split the time and you are one, but basically they share some kind of conscious memory, but each of them have their own experience of living in the world, because the intention behind this is like, we are body and soul. So when you wake up with a body which is a 20 years body, everybody gonna watch at you, you feel super powerful, you're gonna experience the world differently, you're gonna see it differently. So even if the night before you were thinking, when you were into Elizabeth, I will never do it again, when you wake up and you are Sue, the only thing you want to do is do it again. So I think it's really like this idea of what makes us is really body and soul, and the way our body lives in the world is a big, I think it's a big part that creates our, you know, human and social experience. And with the idea, yes, of addiction, that there is always something that kind of makes you want to go back, even if you know that, you know, it's hurting you, it's destroying you. I think it's still this promise, like, if you do it, you're gonna be loved. It's gonna bring you love, you know, and you're gonna be happy. And that's the most powerful promise that can make you do crazy stuff, I think. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And
thank you so much.
keep on making amazing movies.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Un placer.
Thank you. That was great.
Thank you so much.